Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Joseph. I hope everyone's doing well today. So, today I'll be covering a health, stamina, and mana system requested by Zine. And before I get into that, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone. You guys are all amazing. Small announcement. I've been working in the back end on creating a Discord server. And I'll be providing the link down below in this video. And basically free to join. It's just a hangout zone. If you want to ask questions there, you can. It's not mandatory, and you guys are more than welcome to. So, after that being said, let's get into the video. So, what I have basically done is this is not super fancy, but it shows you the groundwork. So here I've got my crappy barrel, my player, health and mana. And here you can see I've got my 3 bars. So my health bar, for example, if I walk into the barrel, it will hurt me because it's spazzing the hell out, as you can see. So to heal, I can go and collect healing orbs, and that will give me some health back. As you can see, as I move around, when I hit the shift key, my stamina drops. I can also use magic. As you can see, that degrades my mana bar. And if I pick up orbs, it will regenerate, and it will regenerate by itself. So, let's get into what I did and how this works. Because it's, again, a lot of pass-through information more so than anything. So, I've got nothing fancy in my sprite section here. I've just got some barrels, some really poorly drawn orbs, my magic circle thing I created really quickly. I've got my mana orb and my player. Nice and simple. So, in essence, the barrel does a few things. So the barrel has a safeguard in place to stop it from spazzing out of the room. It basically just takes, if it's moving in an X direction and it's out of the room, it will just invert its direction and come straight back in. Plain and simple. Next thing it does is with the magic circle, it waits for the magic circle to nearly have no time left to live, and then it will activate and react with the magic. Just as a note, always make sure to put safeguards in here. This is not being checked or safeguarded against making sure the object exists. Just be warned, because it will spaz out. Again, with the player object, what I've done is basically it checks the player. It looks at the health value in the player, and then it will deduct a random amount of health off that player when there's a collision that occurs, and then it will spaz out. So that's pretty much what the barrel does. The health orb has one job, and all it does is it looks at the player's health, and if the player's health is less than maxed health, it will then add a portion of health to the player and then destroy itself. The magic orb is the same, so it's the same principle except working off mana. And then the magic circle, I've just done a little bit of animation to. So all I've done here is I've played with the X, Y direction and a time to live value. And then here, when it gets generated, it draws itself. It basically wants to make sure that its X scale and Y scale are 1. Image direction is equal to image angle is equal to direction, and then direction is +2. And then once it achieves its max scale, it sets off its time to live, and then time to live, once it's less than or equal to 0, deletes itself. So that's the magic circle. It's pretty straightforward right now. Under the player, this is where things get a little bit more complicated because we have to control what's happening with the player. So I've got my health values. Now, health is the easiest out of the 3 systems to set up. So all health is going to look at is how much health do I have. Mana's a little more tricky, and stamina's a bit more tricky again, because we've got to look at certain parameters that impact on the player in-game. So my mana has been set to 100, and my max mana is 100. These are our 2 parameters. My mana regeneration dictates how much I regenerate over time, and my mana cooldown is how long it has to be after I use mana before it starts to regenerate. So I set a cool-off period. And it's the same thing for the stamina. So stamina has its max settings. It's got its regeneration setting. and then it also dictates the sprint speed, player base speed, and then the stamina drain, and then when it becomes activated. So all of these, and the cooldown obviously. So all of these impact on how the player reacts. So now let's look at the step event. So this is where most of the programming happens, minus the actual drawing of the bars. So here, my health bar is just checking to see if it's less, or if it's less than 0, it will reset the room because I'm dead. So pretty straightforward. Under my mouse button here, so I always use a release or a press, never use a click with this kind of stuff because you're just going to spam the living heck out of it. So here, I just check to see if my mana is greater than 10, and then I'll basically create my mana circle. I'll deduct 10 mana off me, that's why I know I can check for if it's greater or equal to 10. And then I set the cooldown. So this won't prevent me from activating my spells, but it will prevent me from regenerating mana immediately once I start casting. And this then allows for a more skilled gameplay because you're getting a consequence for using a skill. My mana cooldown basically looks at if it's greater than 0, it needs to cool itself down. Once it's cooled down, it starts to regenerate itself in this step here. Then what I do is I run a safety to make sure I run it in here, but I also have to run it here because of the orbs I've put down in the field. So I need to make sure that if I pick up mana, my mana can never exceed my max mana, because otherwise then you get the issue where things start to go too big. In the movement department here, I don't know if you guys have seen me use the ORD function. So ORD just allows me to use my keys on my keyboard rather than the predefined ones using the VK underscore function. So basically if I hit my keyboard W, I'm going to move upwards. It's going to be based on my player speed versus my sprint activate. And then basically if my sprint is not activated, if my sprint is not equal to 0, activation is equal to 0, it will then start deducting sprint because I'm in sprint status, and then set my cooldown to 60, which is 1 second in game because the room is moving at 60 frames a second. I set my image angle, which just changes my orientation of image. And then each of the next steps, so S is the same principle, just downwards. A is my left status, and my right is D. So that's pretty much all the same kind of code, it's just the different directions and orientation. My next step is I create my stamina system. So this is where it gets a little complicated because we incorporate the shift key. And in the shift key, I also then look at my stamina is greater than 0, basically, because if I've got no stamina, I can't sprint. If that's true, then I basically set the player speed active status to my sprint speed, so that adds on to the base player. Else, if this is a false statement, meaning my stamina is out, it sets the player active speed back to 0, which means it's no longer in sprint status. The next side to this is we run a cooldown, and that cooldown basically waits for the whole thing to cool off. That happens every time we release a key. It's not linked into stamina at all in the sense that it's not relying on this value. Next, what it does is it does the same kind of safeties. It runs checks to make sure everything is correct. Okay, let's get into the draw event. In the draw event, I draw... sorry about that. I draw self, so it's just looking at itself. I look at X1 and Y1, and basically I just work down the line drawing. Now the reason this is here is if I have it in the step event, you will get a glitch every time you pick up health past a certain point. This stops that because it actually reinforces the setting just before it draws the values. So X1 and Y1 just sets position, plain and simple. In here I just draw a simple black rectangle, and then here I draw a colored rectangle. This dictates the length of my rectangle, and then all I do is a basic equation to look at my percentage. So in essence, what I'm basically saying here is if this is 196 times percentage of 50%, it's only going to draw half that size. So basically, I'm just pulling a simple percentage equation here, but I'm skipping out the normal where you would go times 100. And I do that for each of these here. So basically, these are all the same thing. There's nothing fancy about it. And that's the end result. So if I rerun the code, this is what we get. You can see if I run into the barrel, I get spazzed, I get hurt. I can throw magic at it out of frustration. I can go pick up some mana bars. I can pick up some health. And yeah, that's a very simple health, mana, and stamina system. But it's good because it gives you a good framework in it. Now, if you guys want to see a more fancied up version, ask in the comments and I'll take a look at it. Other than that, I just need to thank you guys again. You guys are all amazing. This will be up in the Google Drive for you to access, and I'm going to put the Discord link there as well for you guys to jump on if you want to. I'll have to start using it a bit more. I tend to not use it a great deal, but I'll start using it more in a way to help build the community that side as well. I'll see you guys later. Stay awesome, and I'll talk to you later.